Okay, so we cropped our image, and now I want to go in there and I want to adjust my whites. And I've shown you in past videos how to do this with contrast and brightness. But sometimes, even with the contrast and brightness, what you'll find is your photo has sort of a blue tint to it, or maybe it feels too warm. And that has to do with the settings on your phone or your camera when you took the picture not being adjusted to understand what a clean white should look like. This can happen when it's cloudy outside or when you're taking it with fluorescent light. But there are ways that we can go in with Photoshop and make changes to your image that will make it look like it was photographed under ideal lighting conditions. So I'll walk you through this step by step. I've got this image up, and right now I've got the background layer here. So what I want to do is I want to do create a new layer. And we see when I click on this little icon over here, the little folded piece of paper, gives me an empty layer. And what I want to do is I want to give that layer a tone. So I'm going to hit edit and fill. And I want to fill it with a 50% gray. So when you first do this, it's going to say foreground color, background color, color. And if you go down towards the bottom half, you're going to say okay to 50% gray. And then the next time, it will do that for you automatically. Now, as I've done that, it's completely covered up my image. So I have to go in and say, no, I don't want to completely cover up my image. I want to blend this 50% gray with the image that's underneath it. So here where it says normal next to opacity, you get to select what kind of layer this is going to be or what kind of blending you want this to be. If I click on that, I want to go to where it says difference and click on difference. And that's going to show me what's different about the image initially and the gray. So you can see it sort of reversed everything, which I always find kind of interesting in and of itself. Um, but that's not what I'm going for here today. What I'm going for is to try to get my whites to be clean and look perfect. So once I've got that difference layer up there, I'm going to have to add yet another layer. And this layer is going to be an adjustment layer. So I can either go down here, and you can see if I hover over these icons, they tell me what they do. It says create new or adjustment layer, fill or adjustment layer. And I can also do it up here where it says layer. I can click over here, and I do that every time. It'll ask, you want to put in a new adjustment layer. And I do want to put in an adjustment layer. And this time, what I want to do is I want to put in what's called a threshold layer. So I'm going to click on threshold, and I'm just going to cancel out of that. I don't want to call this anything because I'm not going to keep it. Oops, sorry. Let's do it down here so you can see what this looks like. I'm going to give a new threshold layer. And when I do put that threshold layer in there, it called it threshold for me. I get what's called a histogram, which shows me where my brightest whites are, where my darkest darks are, and then all the pixels in between. So my threshold level right now is 128, and I've got this little slide bar. And as I slide it right or left, more or less of the image will come up in a black and white image. And based on what I've found in research on the internet, is that I want to slide this over until I get into the 20s. Yeah. I can even type it in, say like 25. Yeah. Once I've got that into the 20s, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to select my eyedropper tool. When I click on that eyedropper tool, I want to find some place that is black. The tip of your eyedropper is what's going to set your point here. If I go Control plus, I can get in a little bit tighter and I can find a spot that I know I'm in the black on. And what I want to do is I want to hit the Shift key, and you'll see it'll give me this little marker. And that little marker, that little kind of bullseye thing that came up when I hit shift, I want to position that into that black area, and I want to click on that, and it's going to set. Oh boy, there it is right there. See, it was the tip of my eyedropper tool, but it's still in the black, so we're still okay. I want to set that someplace in the black. Then I'm going to come back over to where it says background. I'm going to click on my background. Okay. And once I click on my background, then I'm going to again add an adjustment layer. So click on adjustment layer, and this time I'm going to go up to where it says curves. Now, inside my little curves window here, okay, I've got 3 different eyedroppers. Okay. I have my black eyedropper. It's all filled with black. I have my white eyedropper. It's filled with white only partially. And I have my gray eyedropper. I want to click on the gray eyedropper. I want to disable the 2 layers above my curves layer. And then I want to come back over to my eyedropper, and I want to make sure that I hit right on this point that I set there. And you can see, even though these layers are disabled, you can still see that mark that you set for your threshold layer. I'm sorry, yeah, for your threshold layer. And that's going to give you the best point to adjust the whites for your balance, white balance, so that it doesn't look too blue, it doesn't look too yellow, it looks just right. So I'm going to make sure I'm right in there on that with my eyedropper. I'm going to click on that. Once I do, you can see how things kind of changed here, and it set up a blue or a green and a red mark here. Now I can control minus out of this, or go control 0 so that it just fills my screen. Let's put that away for a second. And this is a better approximation of the whites and the colors that are actually in the painting as it is in my studio, without the white from the light being too warm in this case. You may find that when you do this, you don't like what's there. That's okay. There are other ways we can adjust it as well. Last thing, you might say, oh, now that little point is still there in the middle of my piece, Mr. Walter. That's not going to look very good. If I click on another tool like the move tool, you'll notice it goes away. And I do have a bunch of like extra information here now with these 2 layers. So I can click on these 2 layers and I can go ahead and just delete them or put them in the garbage can and say yes. And now my adjustment layer and my background layer are the only 2. So I can toggle between them. I can say, do I like it or do I like the original? Do I like it or do I like the original? And figure out which one you want to keep and submit to AP. So that's it for white balance. I'm going to stop sharing, and I hope you guys have a great day.